They're short, they're snappy, they're snacky, but above all else, they're addictive. Think Mills and Boon, but make it Gen Z. That's the best way I can describe the microdramas I've seen, at least. Some doe-eyed girl who starts working for this millionaire grumpy boss who, unsurprisingly, is this big softie at heart. Then they fall in love, but his mother is this scheming, unapproving villain. He gets together with his ex, the heroine is crying all day, and then magically the hero realizes and they live happily ever after. But this is just the romance genre. Like films, there are so many different genres of microdramas too.
From here on out, none of you are no longer associated with Life Pharmacy. We're fired.
तुमने कहा कि तुम ल्यूमस ग्रुप में काम करते हो, राइट? कौन से पोजीशन पे हो? Just leave it. होगे किसी क्लर्क की पोजीशन पे. Just tell me, तुम मुझसे शादी करोगे या नहीं?
My name is Hermione. 3 years ago, I fell in love with Chris at a party. Since then, I've become his executive assistant.
कबीर, 2 कौड़ी के आदमी मुझसे सवाल करेगा, हाँ? एक लड़की क्या घुमाली खुद को हीरो समझ रहा है?
Microdramas are a completely different and new format of visual storytelling, which originated in China, where these microdramas are known as duanzhu and typically consist of episodes ranging from about 60 to 90 seconds. Think about it. So many of the reels one comes across on Instagram today are actually just small films in themselves. What if they were all tied together into a series of super short episodes? Perfectly in tune with our rapidly depleting attention spans, our increasing penchant for voyeurism, and our growing appetite for shock value. That's your microdrama in a nutshell. And production houses are spending big bucks on microdramas. It's already a $7 billion industry in China. So what makes microdramas click? How big is the microdrama market? Who are the biggest players? How is it any different from traditional filmmaking? Why are VCs so bullish on this space? How are Indian players betting on this space? Will the subscription model work in the long run? What is the role that AI can play in microdramas? We'll decode all of this and more in today's episode with a microdrama expert from China and ET's in-house entertainment whiz. It's Thursday, the 9th of October. I'm your host, Diya Rekhi, and you are listening to The Morning Brief from The Economic Times. According to a report by global tech research and advisory firm Omdia, DramaBox, which is a Singapore-based short drama streaming app, saw a 2,550% year-on-year increase, while a Chinese counterpart, Shortmax, grew by 3,888%, and another Chinese giant in the space, ReelShot's revenue surged from $36 million in 2023 to $214 million in 2024. Now, an interesting fact is that a huge chunk of their fan base consists of women, with ReelShot's parent company, Crazy Maple Studio, revealing that women comprise of 70% of its 45 million monthly active users. But here's what's interesting. In China, it's the opposite. Men are driving the growth with microdramas. Here's my first guest, Wenwen Han, founder and CEO of Hong Kong-registered Short Drama Alliance, telling me the origin story, the evolution, and the business around microdramas. Thank you so much, Wenwen, for joining us on the Morning Brief and also willing to tell us a lot more about this really exciting space, which is microdramas.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
For those who don't know, could you explain how this really came into being in China and how it's sort of become this big phenomenon worldwide?
So I would like to define what kind of short drama we're discussing right now. So if you only mention about those 1 to 2 minutes per episode and a few episodes, those kind of storytelling formats, I think I've seen that around at least 10 years ago. But the short drama we are defining right now, it's a new format because it's heavily based on ad buying or user acquisition. So basically those short dramas, they create different creative ads, act like a bait. And through this bait, through like Meta system or TikTok, so the users get hooked and they click the bait and it redirects to a landing page in where they can download an app and they can watch from the first episode.
So basically, you keep paying to unlock episodes. That's really interesting because this structure would automatically influence the format too, right? I mean, this playbook that microdramas have would be very different from, say, like a feature film or short film or series.
Okay, so I'll just tell the differences from short dramas and from traditional series, okay? The first one, in a traditional series or films, they always talk about character arc. But I feel like short drama is more towards plot-driven. Let's say from rags to riches, right? Or hidden identity. And the other thing is, films and TV also build some characters with a major flaw. But in short dramas, there's no major flaw for the male lead or female lead. And also for the ad buying, you need to attract the audience attention immediately. Sometimes you watch Chinese short dramas, somebody slaps somebody, So imagine when you scroll TikTok, you will see, still shots, you're not interested. But if you see a woman slap another woman, you'll stop and you'll get caught like what they are doing, right? So that's the shocking value to the audience for them to get hooked and to click and redirect into a mini theater, or overseas, they redirect into a landing page to watch this short drama.
So who were the pioneers in the microdrama space? Who really started this and how did it progress after in China?
So actually in China, there are not hundreds of apps. So like Chinese version of TikTok, it's called Douyin. It has a function called mini program theater. So it actually launched in 2022 in Q3. We normally use Douyin as like the biggest traffic source. The platforms are big companies with the content, with the IP, and with the capability of doing the ad promotion. So they can open up different mini program theaters in Douyin.
But when you are viewing a microdrama in China, is it subscription driven or ad driven?
Okay, a good question. So actually in the beginning, that's called IAP, in-app purchase. So those people, they were redirect into the mini program theater, they pay to unlock the rest of the episode. But later, it was because there are more shows coming in, there are more players joining in this game. So people are not willing to pay that much. So it gradually switched into IAA, in-app advertisement. Sometimes you need to watch and unlock, to watch some ads and unlock a few episodes. Also, like less than 2 years ago, the ByteDance, the TikTok's parent company, right? ByteDance launched an app called Hongguo. Hongguo is the IA app. So it's ad-driven. But, TikTok is the main traffic source. So Hongguo and they share the same mother company. So, those commercials, those brands are very willing to work with Hongguo because it's the biggest traffic source.
What would the average spend be like? Would you have that number?
Yes, our share from the beginning. So when we mentioned about like 3 years ago, right? Actually, they are willing to pay $30 to unlock the whole episode. Right now, it's about $10 to $15 to unlock the whole episode. That's it.
So when we speak of what is happening today, right, in China and elsewhere, what are you seeing as some of the top trends in the microdrama space?
From what I see, this market still are dominated by Chinese companies. But what I see the trend is obviously Americans or Indians, they want to launch their own apps. They want to produce their own content. I think it definitely will be a trend for this.
So what is the usual source material for these microdramas? I mean, who owns the IPs?
There are two origins of the Chinese short dramas. One is called web novel. This web novel got at least 28 years history. So there are thousands, tens of thousands of Chinese writers writing this. And those platforms, they own those IPs. And those web novels, the authors write one chapter, another, and the readers pay to unlock that, just like short dramas, right? So those web novels, a lot of them, they were adapted into short dramas. We produce at least 100 new shows every single day. And only like top 10 are called very hit short dramas. So those Chinese platforms, they take their own hit IPs and they dubbed into different languages. For example, they dubbed into English and they export it into overseas, right? And later they test the market. If this dubbed English Chinese short drama works well in overseas, let's say in the American market, they will say, okay, we'll produce an original one. So they translate it into English. They find a local team to produce. That's how it works. So I think if for the Indian apps, if they want to know about how the market is, maybe it's the better and smart ways to license some Chinese short dramas and test it in their market. It's cheaper.
Right. And are you seeing this happening? Are Indian players sort of looking to license Chinese micro dramas?
Yes. I'm not sure I can name them. So, but yes, there are some Indian companies and startups. They actually license Chinese short dramas, especially male-oriented Chinese short dramas. They work very well in India, and the audience are willing to pay for that.
Right. And just to sort of get some numbers into the picture, how much would licensing a Chinese short drama, micro drama, really cost, say, an Indian player? How much would the range be?
So from, I don't know, $800 for India market only to, I don't know, to $2,000, I guess, for those hit short dramas. So it depends. Some are older short dramas, some are hit short dramas. If that's a hit short drama, which we actually in China, we use a website, we use an app called Data Eye. So it's a data website, a data company. So it shows the ranking. So if these short dramas are on the ranking, of course, it will be more expensive for licensing.
So what about the other aspect that, someone else was telling me about, which is that, producing these kinds of micro dramas in places like the US is very expensive, and hence you could have India becoming sort of a hub for production where a few key cast members and say the director are flown down to India, they shoot their vertical dramas here, and then, it's published wherever they are. Do you feel like that might happen?
Honestly speaking, if for those Chinese app, I don't think so. Yeah, it's easier for them to work with Chinese productions or shoot in US actually. So 80 to 90% of the money are spent on ad buying. So only 10 to 20% are spent on production. So which means production are not that valuable or that important to the platforms.
But then what is the estimated production cost of a microdrama then?
Right now, it's about 80 to 150K US dollar right now, and 7 to 10 days shooting. So it depends. Some are, modern short dramas that normally are cheaper, and some are period short dramas that are more expensive. So that's the average price, average production value. Of course, there are some cheaper productions, and there are some very good quality productions that will cost more.
Now let's talk about the revenue streams, Wenwen. Other than the core, of course, which comes from unlocking episodes, what about things like brand placements? Do they play a big role?
Yes, there are actually two ways. One is called product placement, but those brands need to talk with platforms or some big production companies. So once they talk to platforms, say, maybe I can place my product into some short dramas you produce, I will fund it some money. That's one way. The others, they may talk to some production companies and they do the products placement in the short drama they produce. And, platforms do the distribution, the ad buying. And the second one, it's called branded short dramas. I actually did one 2 months ago for a very famous Chinese game. It's vertical, and actually the core is commercial, I would say. because verticals are a very popular format. So these brands are very willing to shoot about 6 to 8 episodes and a short story on a vertical format.
Also, when could you give us an idea of how large this market is in China and even globally today? What is the kind of growth also you're expecting?
Okay. So I've read a consulting report. So they say the Chinese short drama market reached $7.06 billion in 2024 last year. Actually, it exceeds Chinese domestic box office last year and expected to grow to $9.6 billion this year in 2025. And the projected growth rate for 2025 is estimated to remain between 23% to 36%.
Sure. Thank you so much, Wen, for your time. This was incredible, and I really appreciate you, sparing the time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Experts have found that short dramas that truly go viral are usually produced locally, tailored to the culture and daily life of the target audience. Localization strategies like employing local talent, adapting genres, and tailoring themes are key to their uptake. For instance, Chinese giant Real Shot's short-form adaptation of Pride and Prejudice was produced in the UK in late 2024. It was filmed over just 6 days in historic locations across southern England. The production condensed Jane Austen's classic into a high-drama, 16-episode vertical format, each episode running under 2 minutes. Are Indian microdrama apps going to follow suit? We ask ET's Rajesh Naidu to give us a glimpse of India's microdrama landscape. Listen in. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for joining us on the Morning Brief. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, dear.
Starting off with what I had read in your story, Rajesh, I thought it was really interesting that we already have about 15 players in this microdrama space, and we are seeing that, about 20 more players are kind of jumping in. What do you have to say about that? And where do you see all of this leading?
Basically, the whole space, microdrama space, it's heating up now. In Indian context, it's very similar to what's happened in China, where you have a structured storytelling of a long format web series and also the time structure of Reels and YouTube Shorts. So it's a marriage of best of both worlds. That is, these are the two important things which have, laid the foundation of microdrama content globally.
Could you give our listeners an idea of some of the biggest players in this space right now and where you're seeing more interest coming from?
In India, you are referring to tier 2, tier 3 cities, or as it is largely called the Bharat subscriber. So these are the subscribers who consume a lot of microdrama content. As you rightly said, there are close to 15 microdrama apps. The biggest player in this space is Kuku TV, which has, I think, close to 5 million active paid subscribers. And then you see a lot of players like Flick TV, Dashverse, Rocket Reels, and then there is Clip TV. So the whole chronological order changes depending upon how each player grabs subscribers.
Absolutely. And Rajesh, how large is the addressable market for microdramas in India? I mean, in China, we've seen that it has outpaced even the box office. But do you feel like that is the level of growth we'll see in India as well?
Certainly. There are a few reasons for it. Importantly, what we need to understand is why microdrama content is working. First is it caters to people with short attention span. Second is it's very engaging. And third is the cost. So a 50 episode microdrama content would cost not more than 12 lakh in India. If you compare that with a proper long format web series, an 8 episode web series would cost around 12 to 15 crore. Apart from that, in India, even though there is a lot of dubbed content, like from Korea and China, there is an acceptance for that. But my sources told me audience love original ideas which are very localized. And that's where players like Kuku TV, Flick TV and others, they are, scoring an edge because they are creating content which is very localized, which talks about the stories of people living in tier 2, tier 3 cities, stories of, people who are down and out, deserving. They have aspirations, but their socio-economic conditions do not support their life. But again, they rise against all the odds and then they succeed. So these are the very, prevalent tropes. But when I say this, it's just not the fact that only tier 2, tier 3 subscribers are interested in microdrama content. Largely, there are three categories of microdrama viewers, One is homemaker, second is a commuter, and third is the viewer who has short attention span, chiefly Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Rajesh, could you give us an idea of the kind of investment that's being poured into this segment?
In the past 1 year, venture capitalists have invested close to $48 million. It's almost 1.5 times jump between 2023 and 2024. The biggest investment a microdrama app has got is Dash Reels, which is $13 million. It is done by PeakX Partners and Stella Industries, along with other investors. Other noticeable investment in this space is $2.3 million seed funding received by Flick TV.
Sure. But if you look at China, where this sort of originated, there are few large players who sort of dominate the market, right? So will we see some kind of consolidation in the Indian market as well?
Undoubtedly, because I doubt, because this space is going to get crowded a lot. One of my sources told me that he would not be surprised when you see more than 100 apps. But again, this will make the whole space rather fiercely competitive, and it will be difficult for individual players to survive, because ultimately you're addressing the same ecosystem. If one wants to understand what is the addressable subscriber base of microdrama segment or content in India, then you have to look at the UPI enabled mobiles, which is in the range of 40 to 50 crore. So when you have more than 100 players competing for 40-50 crore subscribers, one can understand it becomes fiercely competitive. In that case, survival will be very difficult for a lot of players. So what I gather from my interaction with people is, even long format OTT players like Netflix, Amazon, they are also looking at this space. In fact, Amazon launched its own microdrama app, and there are others who will follow suit, because they want to keep it as an offering, their additional offering from their main offering of films and web series, documentaries.
Finally, Rajesh, how do you see the entire microdrama growth story panning out? I mean, the addressable ad market and the overall industry. How do you see that growing in India and in the international markets in the next few years?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. At present, if you look at addressable advertising market, it's close to $500 million, which is estimated to rise to $2 billion in the next 3 to 5 years. And the total market size of Indian microdrama app, it is expected to reach $10 billion in the next 5 years. Recently, Media Partners Asia came out with a report on microdrama content industry, in that they have mentioned about their estimates of revenue growth of microdrama industries across geographies. So I'll be quoting few statistics from that report. If you look at the global revenue size of microdrama segment, at present it is close to $12 billion. In the next 5 years, it will rise to $26 billion. So we are talking about more than 2 times jump. And in this whole growth, there are 3 countries which are going to play a significant role. One is China, second is US, and third is Japan. In China, in 2021, the revenue size of microdrama segment was close to $0.5 billion, which rose to close to $10 billion in 2025. And it has surpassed its box office collection. That is the growth that we are seeing in the US and Japan also. In fact, in the US, the revenue size of microdrama is close to $830 million, which is expected to rise to $4 billion again in the next 5 years. In fact, in the US, there is a microdrama app called a Drama Box, which has shown profits. It has a revenue of $330 million and profit $1. And in Japan, the revenue size is close to $1.2 billion. I think a similar story is going to play out in India.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Thanks, Diga.
So microdramas are to the content junkie what the 2020 cricket match is to the new age sports buff. Passionate about what they consume, but too impatient to consume it for too long. And just like in cricket, it's pretty crazy how it's gone from being a niche mobile video trend to one that's now registering explosive growth. The buzzy format is one that has seen apps like Drama Box, Good Shot, Reel Shot, and Shotmax collectively build a user base of over 150 million monthly active users. As per estimates, the market in India for such content is expected to grow to $5 to $10 billion by 2030. But the key is that locally produced content accounts for about 80% of microdramas viewed. So it's important for companies to tailor their content to suit Indian audiences. India's appetite for content is insatiable, and microdramas are this perfect mix of being entertaining and easy to access. But will they become bigger than the box office like in China? We'll be here to tell you if it does. Thank you, Wenwen and Rajesh. It's Thursday, October 9th. I'm your host, Diya Rekhi, and you are listening to The Morning Brief from The Economic Times. This episode was produced by Anirban Chaudhary and Vinay Joshi, sound design by Amrit Redji. A new episode of The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, don't miss our new show, Corner Office Conversations, where we talk to the most interesting business leaders in India and globally every alternate Monday on YouTube and your favorite listening platforms. Stay tuned and have a good week.